Apply.
All right.
All right, go ahead. Do it again.
All right. Is it ready? Is it prime time now?
Yeah, man. You can repeat yourself all you want.
All right. Okay, here we go, man. Welcome to the game. We have a special guest. Very first guest ever on Devin the Gamer, man. This was an honor, a treat. When I reached out to him, I have to admit, it was my first time ever supporting a Kickstarter. And yeah, and so I was looking at it, and one thing for me was that I was like, hey, you know what? Because I was thoroughly against it after the whole Sony thing when they brought the guy up there and they tried to do a Kickstarter. I was like, whoa. And then, of course, with Star Citizen, they're asking for a Kickstarter, but then they got like, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars and the game is still not out. I'm kind of like, eh. But there was something about just seeing, I was watching you on Iron Lords, and then I was listening and hearing the passion that you had. And I was, of course, on top of that, being a person of color, being into one of my favorite hobbies of all time in gaming, I said, you know what? I'm going to risk it all. I'm going to go ahead and go and support. And sure enough, man, it's an honor. So, man, welcome. EverbornSaga, thank you so much, man, for coming on through to Devin the Gamer, man. How you been?
I'm all right, man. Thank you for having me, first of all. Mm-hmm. And thank you for, believing in the vision. It's been nearly a decade of my life kind of leading up to all of this. If we want, we can go through the story, but I think you all heard that on Iron Lords. But this thing, it meant a lot to me just to even go to Kickstarter, because I'm kind of one of those people like that. I don't know, like maybe self-doubt is the word. So I never thought I was good enough to go to Kickstarter, right? And the campaign did really well, and I'm really excited to sort of bring this thing out and take this thing to the next level. So I thank you for taking note, and I thank you for having me here to even tell whatever stories I can tell.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it, man. That's the whole point of it. I mean, me and Don, we've been doing this for a little while now, and it was kind of like we want to spice it up and do something a little bit different. But I just didn't want to come with the same type of people that kind of follows over on everybody else's podcast. I kind of want to do something special like this, and so yeah, having two devs on the show is a dream come true for me. So. With that being said, let me go to my partner in crime, man. Don, how you doing, brother? What's been going on with you, man?
I'm doing all right. I just realized the last minute I had to set up the scene for our guest on the other side here, because we have the dev side and we have the gamer side. So
my gameplay is here. It's set up.
Yeah. I had to scrounge the bottom of the barrel right now for gameplay, but we have your stuff. No. It was about time I had to download it. So it was one of many things I had to get up and rolling in regards to this. And it's nice not to be. I'm usually used to being outnumbered between the gamers and the devs. So it's nice to have somebody else that here knows the struggle. He talks about how long he's been working on his project. I know exactly how that feels. And, it's one of those things, like, I would imagine on Kickstarter, prior to Kickstarter, not really anyone's rooting for you on your own personal project except for you. And then when you kind of go public to see people root for you, I would imagine that's a pretty good feeling. So,
yeah, man. I did not believe it would be fine. It feels good to sort of have that level of validation. Like, I was going to push forward anyway, because I always sort of believe, like, you think about the next step instead of the last step. Yeah, exactly. But the idea that at least some people saw the vision just gave me even more energy to, like, move it forward. And, this thing it started as a game. And then, building it out, like I said, I wanted to add a story to it, and all that, those notes became things that I said, I have something here. So it's now become this thing that's bigger than a game. Like we have a novel, like a real proper fantasy novel that's going to release later this year. The Kickstarter was for a second series, and then we're launching a third and fourth series this year as well. So we have two more major comic launches and a novel launch this year. and in between that, I'm trying to, take care of the family and do development on the game in the background.
So are you working for some studio behind the scenes and doing your own stuff, or what's your story?
No, I'm a game developer on my own time, yes. But I am a software engineer in the financial industry.
Okay, gotcha.
As my day job. Gotcha. And I use that to fund all of these comic book and video game expeditions.
No, I'm in the same boat. I do freelance graphic works in video games, and I'm working on my own projects. So I know how it is. Like, you put in the hours, you put in the time, and then the next thing you know, you're just like, well, it's not going to get itself done. So you just kind of have to buckle down and go at it. So it's
do everything, right? And then even when I want to move faster, I'm ready to move faster, I still have the constraint of my paycheck, right? Yeah. Because I fund the whole thing, like, you know what I mean? I got to tell people, look, you get paid when I get paid. So if you want to sign on to this thing, I get paid every 2 weeks, and you'll get a portion of that.
Well, and that's the thing is, regardless of what scale a game is, people don't realize a lot of things that affect development is time and money. Like, people don't talk about that enough, and those are the constraints that when people complain about games or anything like that, that's a big part of it. So yeah, more power to you for pulling it out of your own pocket to get all that going and flesh out a universe. I'm excited to see where you go with it. So
yeah. One other thing to add, that I mean, something that I'm like learning, right?
Yeah.
Like the game that I'm building, like, the engine is done, right? But, I'm not an artist, right? I mean, some people consider like coding an art, right?
It's a language. Even then I look at it as a language, like writing poetry or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right. But even then, I'm a bad poet, right?
Okay, gotcha.
but there's also, like, I have to bring on an animator to do the character animations, right? Mm-hmm. And I just like find freelance people, but then you sort of need an art director that has sort of a cohesive vision to put all that together. Because, like, when you're building a game, when you first start out, you're using a lot of temp assets, right?
Yeah.
Just to get it so you have like some sort of visual element to build to, right? And for me,
to flesh out ideas and get mechanics going and getting that sort of stuff up and rolling sooner and quicker, I'm assuming is what you're referring to, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Hey, I'm just going to turn out to be a listener because no. I think this is fantastic. I think this. I'm sorry, I just wanted to say this because I'm like, this is great insider stuff that I just was hoping.
This is what happens behind the scenes when you guys are not around. So we'll just go for it.
Yeah. Go ahead. Talk about it.
But I mean, I know where you're coming from. Like, I mean, so no one person developer has all the talent in all the areas, right? So, like, your expertise is on more in the coding side of things. Mine's more of doing the artwork side of things, right? So lead character design, stuff like that.
I might have to slide in your DMs after this because we got some things we need.
Yeah, we can work something out. I was showing Kmega some of my stuff behind the scenes. Yeah. He was pretty excited. My biggest issue, I think, is my ambitions are way bigger than what I should be attempting. But I'm used to working with big teams and stuff like that, and so nothing against the teams that I have, but sometimes you have to be focused on deadlines and things like that, and so you can't just flush certain ideas out. And so for me, being independent and having an independent project allows me to flush out all those ideas. And you nailed it, right? Like, you have to like gray box it out and build out your levels and figure out the timing of things, figure out what's the engagement, what distance you're going to engage. A lot of times that will dictate your frame rate. It will dictate a lot of different decisions you make in game development, regardless if it's a smaller game or a bigger game, whatever it may be. You kind of have to do all that sort of stuff. But yeah, you're right. You have to have someone for art direction and a vision and give something a unique look. And, it's one of those things that brings your characters that you have planned in your story gives them life. You know what I mean? It gives them something that stands out instead of being more of the same. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. For me, because there's such a large story element to what I'm trying to do, and it's funny because like if you play the game, it's kind of like a Mario game. Like it's a side scroller, sort of if you mixed Mario with Metroid, right?
Okay.
Like you can jump on people's heads, but you have to sort of unlock sort of weapons that are power ups, and those allow you to access like different parts of levels, things like that. But like then, when you're developing something for so long on your own, right? Like Ariel. So Ariel's adventure, or Everborn Ariel's adventure, comes from a game that I did in 2015 on the Windows Phone store called Ariel's World, right? And it had a lot of the same character models. There was no story, and I built that out over the course of 3 years, right?
Okay.
Same thing, right? But when you're building something by yourself, you might think this idea is good, but you don't know that until you get people to play it, right?
You're 100% right.
And here's the scary thing, right? Or at least that I've found. I have very supportive sort of friends and family.
Yeah.
And they're so enamored with the idea that, a friend or a family member of theirs is making a game. It's hard to actually get critical feedback.
Yeah, my wife's the same way. She goes, "Oh, this looks gorgeous." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm looking for you to critique it." You know what I mean? And then next thing you know, I'll do something that's nicer, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, that looks way better." Well, I wish you would have critiqued the earlier thing. You know what I mean? And it's just the process, and I don't think any developer goes into making their project. I mean, we're our own worst critics, and in the same token, we will compliment ourselves the best on our back, sort of thing. And yet you're right; it's super hard to get something critical or critical thought out there and that's constructive, right? Like you can get people to rag on stuff all day long, but getting stuff that's constructive is challenging, or get the vision of what you're trying to do. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because it's one thing to be critical of what you're doing, but being critical with an understanding where you're going with the project, I think is a big thing as well. So.
Right, and that's the other thing. Like, and this I learned this after working on a game for 3 years. You could put blood, sweat, tears, money, throw yourself into debt making something, right? Years of your life you'll never get back. Mm-hmm. You release it, it's no longer yours, and now it's in the world, and people will consume it, whether it's a film or a painting, piece of art, whatever it is. In our case, a game. They'll look at it for 5 seconds and say, "Oh, trash. I don't like it."
Well, and that's the thing too. Is like you mentioned, like once you release something to the world, yeah, it's your creation. But at a certain point, once you release it, everyone else is now invested in it. You know what I mean? And they
hopefully
they have some sort of ownership. It's a curse and a blessing at the same time, right? You know what I mean? Because they have a vision where you should go with it, and you're like, well, that's not what I was thinking, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I mean, you nailed it. It really is one of those interesting things, putting something out in the world and seeing what people have to say about it. So,
I look at any piece of art, and I truly do. Like, if you're creating a game, I think of it as interactive art. Like, if we just think of the time and the meaning and purpose that we try to put in these things that we create. Like, I don't think anyone goes out and says, "Hey, I'm going to make a bad game," right? And there is some level of thought that goes into all of this. So when you think of the process of it, I think of it as an art, especially if you're a one-man show, right? Now, and it's never really a one-man show, but I'm sure you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
In creating anything, it is really like raising a child, right? And then you raise them off until they're college age, and now they have to leave the nest. And so when you are ready to release, it is like sending your child off, and they have to go and be in the world, and you have to hope that you've given them enough of a foundation to stand on their own out in the wilderness.
Yeah,
if I could
no.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
put it any more poetic.
you're
I know, but I do wanna
raising
say
a
this,
small
though.
idea, and it
Right.
becomes a bigger idea. So yeah, I can understand the analogy of what you're saying there in regards to that. And it's one thing for us to have this conversation. What should I call you? I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
You can just call me Everborn.
Everborn. Okay, so Everborn, like, I don't think people really understand what these certain things are like, but these are the type of conversations I want the gaming community to be able to experience. Does that make sense? Like, there's so much.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, as for me, listening and absorbing this, I'm just taking it in. It's like, hopefully when the people that they listen to it and they get the understanding, like, look, these are human beings too, and this is their project, and it's just no different than anybody else that's doing other projects. It's just that when people take gaming and it's just like what Everborn said, was that they look at a game and then they label it trash right off the bat. That's the ultimate, I feel, disrespect. Instead of, if you're not even giving the game an opportunity to just even try to look at a trailer, the first thing you see is just a picture of it or something and label it. That's something to me. I mean, this is amazing for me just listening to this. I'm sorry, I just wanted to just touch in and just say, from a gamer, I feel that. I really do feel that.
Well, it's the creative process, right? Like, I don't. Me personally, I don't want people to ever really feel sorry for me. Like, that's not what I'm looking for when I.
Well, I'm not saying feel sorry for, but I'm saying that your hard work, time, and effort that you devs put into these games, I think that people just need to look at it from like how they do their everyday work.
Yeah.
If you got a person that's over here doing a job, then somebody just walks by and then they just completely just shits on your job, and you doing it and you're working it the hardest you can, you're doing it the best that you can, and then that person just degrades you. That's how I look at it from the standpoint of just, damn, if the game is bad, the game is bad. In that retrospect, we've seen plenty of that. But I'm just saying, there's human elements behind it, and that's why I'm really loving this conversation. I'm sorry, I just wanted to interrupt that part.
No, you're totally fine. I mean, I just look at these sort of things because, like, how sometimes the gaming community wants you to have like a bleeding heart for a certain particular situation, whatever it might be, and then certain situations people all dogpile. I just want people to have an understanding of what it's about, what it's like, right? Like, and I think if you're able to relate on that level, and if you're that much into gaming outside of picking up the controller and turning on the project, I think there's elements that make you think twice before you interact with the general audience out there.
Right.
And I think that's a net positive for everybody, because I always talk about, sometimes we get the games that basically what we put out in the ether there sometimes, right? And as much as I want to turn a blind eye to certain conversations, sometimes I have to go like, man, do I even want to touch on that subject? Do I even want to do a game that has these sort of elements in it, because I see how the general public perceives it versus a constructive criticism. So it's just one of those things. We're all part of the same boat. We want to make great content for you guys to enjoy. I'm pretty sure you're looking at, you just want to find the audience that will love your game, right? There's going to be people that are not going to like your game. You know that, and I know that, right? But
there are days that I don't like my game, right? Well, so like I can imagine.
yes. When the 100th time it's crashed, or you don't know where you messed up on the code, and or me where I'm like, man, what acid did I dump into the game world that just caused this thing to run like crap, right? And like, what did I do? There was 5 steps back, or was it 1 step back? You know what I mean? It's just it's one of those things, but. That's part of the, I guess, the puzzle of making it all work. And you said, like, it's an art form, because, those are a lot of the conversations you hear. You see, like, places like Digital Foundry and stuff like that in the gaming world, where it has to be a certain pixel, fill rate, or it has to be exactly this frame rate, or exactly this. Well, you don't really know the attention. There's a lot of things you're balancing. It's like spinning plates, right? That you're trying to balance to get your project up and going.
I hate I love what Digital Foundry does, just to sort of bring sort of awareness to how, these machines process images, like that is fine. What I hate is sort of the pixel counting that comes afterwards. And I know that partly, I know that, they're doing it for educational purposes, and I know they sort of benefit from it, not like nefariously, but like a lot of people go there just for that, so that it can have ammo to go back and argue
talking
with people.
Points sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But to me, right, the final image quality is a lot more important than whether it is 1440p or 1800p. Like, I don't care about that, right? What I want to know how it looks. I want to know about the art direction. I want to know how it feels, right? Nobody wants a stuttery game, and nobody wants like blurry textures, like, unless it makes sense. But I think if we could just try to look at these things sort of more holistically, because your eye is going to look at a finished image, right? And like you said, it's juggling plates. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of sort of performance scaling depending on a scene that you're in, or whatever it is. All of that goes together. So if we could just appreciate these things for what they are, instead of saying, hey, I have 10 more frames a second than you, or 4 more frames a second, or I have 4K where you have reconstructed 4K from 1440p.
Oh crap.
What happened?
I don't know.
Okay.
All right. Are we still live?
We are, I guess.
All right. Cool. Yeah. So.
Okay, there we go. We're back.
Keep going. So, but you said reconstructive 4K and all that sort of stuff. So.
Yeah. Do we really care about those things, right? Or you want something that looks beautiful. So, for example, I was playing Returnal this weekend, right? And it does, they're saying it runs at 1080p reconstructed up to 4K,
right?
60 frames a second or whatever. I have some issues with the game, but the way it looks is not one of those issues.
Right. I was going to say that's not the issue to that game. Yeah.
Right. And so so what? The game is beautiful. The art direction is amazing. The mechanics are smooth. I do not like the idea that you lose everything, and if you do lose everything, right? Those bugs are I understand it. I know that's not what Housemarque wanted, right? Like I said, nobody goes out to release something that has issues. But for me, right? Let
me ask you a question on that. How could I understand that there's beta testers and people like that, but it's like you're just saying, these guys have been working on this game for years. How could that be missed? Where the people say, is that something that's going through because it's an online game and that's going through something that's wrong with the console, or is that a software issue with the game? Why is it doing that, where people are having those issues where they're losing everything?
Well, when we say how it could be missed, I think we have to look at. I don't know what Housemarque's development pipeline is.
Right.
And then you have to look at what is their sort of QA situation, right? Because when it's not, again, every team is set up differently. Some people, if they're running things agile, right? They'll have QA and devs and product all in one team, but. I don't know how they're set up, so I'm not speaking for them. But if I'm releasing some code in my day job and it'll work, a lot of times for the dev, it works fine on their machine, right?
Exactly.
But that's not really an answer that you can tell to customers.
Public, right?
I don't think people also realize you can have two of the same dev kits, let's say Xbox or PlayStation, whatever it may be, right? And they're the same builds, but it works fine on one dev kit and not on the other. and people don't realize that in regards to, so when you start scaling that, how do you anticipate that, right? And there's just sometimes and that's why, like, I think interconnected worlds, when you have networks and stuff like that, it gets infinitely more complicated on so many different levels. So yeah, no one wants to release a broken game. I mean, that's the harsh reality. No one wants to do that. So
yeah, but then at the same time, right? Like, no one wants to release a broken game or a bad movie, but also no one wants to pay for a broken product, right?
Yeah,
like, so I don't, right? So if I go to Best Buy right now and I buy a TV and it's broken, I'm sure, LG or Samsung didn't mean to sell me a broken TV, but it's broken and I'm angry, right? Because I paid for it. So the question is, can we find a way to be more empathetic of our fellow human beings? Like, I don't have to say, fuck you 343 or fuck you Housemark or whatever, right? Like, I could just say, like, we can provide constructive criticism, understanding that we're speaking to human beings just like us, because it's sort of like you said, like, if you're at work and you're putting together a TPS report or whatever you do, right? Like, or someone, they maybe work in a movie theater. I don't know, right? Like, it doesn't matter what your job is. If someone comes up to you while you're trying to do your job and do your best and just pretend like you were never trying,
right?
You know what I mean? No, you wouldn't want that. And if you wouldn't want someone speaking like that to you in whatever your day job is, then why do that to people?
Well, right. That's the one thing for me as a gamer. When I get out here and I start talking, or I post something, I make sure that I will not try to call a game trash, even if there's a game that I'm not particularly fond of, because I know that there's always going to be an audience for that game.
Right. And you don't like it. That
right. Yeah, that doesn't mean that other people doesn't like it. And then on top of that, it's just about, man, just being just a decent human being. Like, I understand that there's people that want to do shock and awe and they want to cap to try to get people's attention so they can get likes or subscribes, follows, all that other stuff. But when it really comes down to it, it's all about the human element. Like, you want to be treated with respect and dignity. You think that you just coming out here and, for instance, let's just say that I came up and I was talking about your game, right? And I was just dogging it out. I guarantee you, when I reached out to you and said, hey, man, you want to come on here to Devin the Gamer or GRG? You think you want to come over here and talk to? You're going to be saying, hell no. I don't even, man, you sit there and just dogged out my project before it even came out. And that's the thing for me, is where I think that people out here that's content creators that don't even care about want to do interviews or just want to do it for shock and awe, they're the disease that needs to be weeded out, because there's a lot of gamers out here that just want to play games and then access to talk to people and get the information and just be civil about it.
Well,
man,
something I personally believe is what I call a positive impact loop, right?
Right.
Like, if you're positive, you can be critical, right? But come from a place of at least an understanding when you're talking to a dev, that opens the opportunity for that dev also to interact with that individual, right? And they both gain something. The gamer gains something and the developer gains something from that. And, it's sometimes, especially big companies and stuff like that, they're afraid to reach back out because they know what the backlash is. Okay, that one guy's positive, but he's got 30 other people that are gonna just dogpile on later and rag on something. And
you know why though?
I get it. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's because it's just free to listen.
Yeah.
People. This thing is this sort of thing that's supposed to connect us and give everyone a voice. Like, that's the double-edged sword, right? Like, the beauty of the internet is it gives everybody a voice. The terrible thing about the internet is that it gives everybody a voice, right? And sort of that's really the problem, right? So if maybe I'm angry at my wife, maybe I hate my job, maybe I just had a bad day, maybe the dog peed on the carpet. I don't know, right? And then this becomes an outlet, and you just have to point me in a direction, right? Mm-hmm. So whether we're talking, whatever the subject is, whether it is what they did with Star Wars, or whether it is the Craig face in Halo, or whatever it is, just give me someone to be mad at, because I have all this pent up frustration, and we live in a civilized world, so I can't just punch people. I'll just do it here on this whatever my social media platform, and then I'm done. I just get to sort of expel whatever negative energy was in me, and then they go back and they go back to their lives, and then they're fine, right? So people, right, that they interact with become their stress relievers, right? And you know, I just to the other point with devs and them reaching out, you know, as a gamer, right? We've noticed this sort of over reliance on showing us CG trailers until the absolute last minute, right? You know why that is?
You talking about 3 years of CG?
Trust me, I've heard this too from Don. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I like where you're going with this, because this has been an argument that I've been having for a while with people. Go ahead.
Everyone making something is deathly afraid of the Craig complex, as I call it, right?
Yep.
People will see gameplay not having a full picture. They have one screen grab, right, of a low res thing, and then that becomes the whole talk and all the hype. Because listen, I'm a one-man show, like building a game, but think a bigger game studio that's putting together a project that costs tens of millions of dollars before you even get to your marketing budget. And then this thing needs to sell, and its selling is completely dependent on people's hype and excitement for it. And showing actual gameplay and people find something wrong with it could kill your entire launch, right? It could kill all the momentum going up to the launch. And so we complain so much when we see the game, and then they're afraid to show it, and then we say, oh, why are you only showing CG trailers, right? And
it's also that catch-22. So they showed like the actual project multiple years in advance, right? Let's say
it's not ready yet. Like,
it's not ready yet. So the two things are going to happen: either they aim too high, right, and they're not going to be able to deliver on the product, right, that they originally thought they had to scale something back, or it's just not ready for show in prime time, and so then you get 2 years of bad press. It's just 2 years of bad press.
One other point. There might be a feature that you work in your planning phase. You build it out, and as you're making the game, hey, this mechanic doesn't work anymore. Like it messes up the cohesiveness of the game, and it's better to take it out. And then people say, well, you had that feature there, and then now they're mad at you, right? So, but sorry, go ahead.
No. I just wanted to touch on the point that you were making, was that at E3, I played this game called Biomutant, and the controls were absolutely fantastic. So it was really funny when you brought up the aspect about, like, you know, wanting the controls to be right and tight and all that. But the game graphically, it looked good, but it looked dated, right? And I was just thinking to myself, once you just said that, was like, if they showed the game, because people were asking, why we haven't seen anything for Biomutant? Why we did? I said, well, you know, I played it in 2018. It was really fun. I said, but again, you know, if they're not ready, then just give them time. I don't know. I think they're gonna cancel the game. Something's wrong. Blah 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 blah. Right? And then when they showed the trailer looked better than the game that I played in 2019. And then we look at the game. They dropped a trailer just a couple of months ago, or I think at the end of last year.
Well, they did.
That game looks.
They released a new one today.
Yeah,
like today or yesterday. It was kind of like a parody of Star Wars. It was pretty cool, actually.
Man, that game looks so much better. I mean, that's a day went by for me, because I was already intrigued by playing it then. But now it looks better than the trailer that they originally showed back then. because they had the time, and that's what I'm just saying. Like, to me, with all of this, attention is the new currency. Everybody wants to just want to get that spotlight for 15 minutes, 5 minutes, an hour, for however long that they can, just for shock and awe, instead of just trying to be patient and see what's going on right before their eyes. And that's a great point that you just made. But I mean, you go ahead and continue. I just wanted to agree with you on that.
No, I mean, and I think the other problem is, like, everybody we live in this sort of this binary, like, hellscape where you either absolutely love something or it's the worst thing that you've ever seen in your entire life. Mm-hmm. And there's no sort of nuance. Like, I can't even say, hey, that game was great, wasn't perfect, but it was cool. Then it's like I have a problem with it, right? So, and then the other thing is everything, and this is, everything is like sort of the moment, right? So, like, instead of, like, these things take time, right? Like, so this is another thing I hear. Let's take, for example, like, Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
And, the Xbox, right? So they have games coming, right? Because it's not as though they spent, several $1 billion buying, amassing studios to not release games, right? They're coming, but these things take time, right?
Absolutely. Right.
The reason we got Last of Us, right? And the reason we got the generation we got with sort of the PS4 is because Sony sort of has done this work, right? They took their time. If you look in the early years of the PS4, you didn't have a lot of games. I think it was around 2015-ish.
The first 2 years were light on what they delivered.
Right.
I mean, it just was. Yeah.
Right. So, and the funny thing is, the first 2 years of the Xbox One, they had a ton of games. Like 2013 through 2015, I think we had better games on the Xbox. Right.
I can see that.
It was 2016 on where things started to shift. And that was because Sony had been investing in growing their first-party teams, cultivating, a sort of culture of collaboration. This is like, if you notice the vegetation, I don't know why I pay attention to this stuff, but look at the vegetation in all of Sony's games, right? Like Days Gone, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, Horizon Zero Dawn. They all are sharing that sort of tech, right? And them sort of building that sort of cohesion is not unlike what, say, the MCU has done over time to cultivate, their universe, right? Every film builds on the other. They share things, and all the films look like they exist in the same world, even though they're wildly different in tone and whatever, right? So I say all this to say, Sony didn't do that overnight, but once you get it rolling, it's like a machine, right? In a good way. And so, but because we live in the right now, everyone says, hey, Xbox has got no games. And some people will be mad if you're excited about what's coming, but to me, just, I guess, being empathetic of the fact that these things take time. Your favorite blockbuster took 3 to 4 years to build, whatever it is, considering they bought studios in 2018, I would expect that there are some good things in the horizon. And I'm just bringing all this up to say, because we live in the moment, we only think about right now and not like, I don't think
You're saying people's perspective, or they don't come from an understanding of what the roadmap is.
I don't know if they don't understand. I just think they don't care.
It could be possible. It could be both. I mean, there's no reason why it can't be, right? In regards to that. But yeah, it's just trying to explain that, hey, games. I mean, I have conversations with people that want to support me, and I'm just like, man, I'll show when I'm ready. You know what I mean? I don't want to just show right now because I don't want to show something premature. You know what I mean? And
yeah, it's done when it's done.
Yeah, exactly. And
but I do want to add one point,
sure.
though, right? This is just like, and I'll look at me in my sort of my day job versus what I do with the games. In my game, I don't have a deadline, right? It will be out when I feel like I am comfortable with the world seeing it.
Yeah.
I've been working on this thing for 4 years now, the version that I want to release to everyone. And because of that, right, I almost wish I did have a deadline, because there's this level of scope creep that happens, when building something like this, right? Like, I say, I see a new feature, I want to add it. Okay, now I just added a few months of development time to iron that out. and that just keeps happening. So it's like, if you have a deadline, it forces you to kind of get only what you need, and then, right? Like the game has been through several iterations of, like, I could have released sequels by now with how different it is from when I started, but that's because I don't have a deadline.
Well, I'm sure you self-impose your own, like, smaller deadlines, right? Like, not a final game deadline, but hey, there's this feature I want to add to it, and I think this is going to take me 2 weeks to implement this idea, right? And so you don't have to answer to a boss, but sometimes I call myself the worst boss in the world, because I'll give myself an unrealistic deadline. Because I want to execute on it, right? And so it's just one of those things. And people talk about this is one of the things people don't understand behind the gaming culture. Sometimes when people talk about all these long hours they work, some developers superimpose that stuff on themselves. Like, I do it all the time. I do it all the time because I set a deadline, or I have a goal that I want to do. In that goal, I'm just like, well, it's not going to get done itself, so I'm going to have to stay up until 2 tonight to get it done. I don't have to stay up until 2. I did it to myself, right? You know what I mean? And
and what it is for me, like, sometimes it's not so much like a goal or a deadline. I'll like hit a bug, and I'm so annoyed by it. Okay. I can't think of anything else until I fix it. And that can cause me to stay up for 2 days, right?
Well, that could push back all of your other ideas too, right? Because you want to get this done before you start implementing other things. So it's I get it in regards to that. So, well, we got topics, don't we?
Well, no. I mean,
no. Let's get
some topics.
Well, I mean, we can get to a topic, but I have to ask this question, because this is probably the most important question coming from me to ask our guests, and that is about, as a person of color, Don, how I am about that. Okay, so I have to know what inspired you. Like, what was the game, or was it that you ran into someone that was in the gaming business, or what inspired you to get into gaming? And so far, from your experience right now, how is gaming? Is it going in the right direction now, since we're starting to see more people of color coming out as protagonists, and how much more do you think gaming needs to go to get to the place to where you think that it's all for one? If you think that,
because there's a few things there, right? Like, so, what got me into, when you say what got me into gaming, do you mean what got me into being
game development?
Okay.
Game development, I should say. But you can also say, like, what was the game that started it all for you?
Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, the greatest game ever created.
Oh my God! Did he say the greatest game ever created?
That was the side-scrolling one, right?
No, that was part 2.
No.
Link to the Past.
Okay, Link to the Past was the Super Nintendo one, right?
Yeah.
That was the Super Nintendo one. Yeah.
If they stopped making video games there, we would have been all right. Not saying that they needed to. I'm just saying that was the pinnacle.
That was the pinnacle, anyway, right there.
Right. So I literally play that game once a year. Once a year, I play that game. Okay,
Oh, wow.
so that is the thing that got me into games. But I always knew there were things I wanted to do. As a kid, I always said, I want to have a cool job, right? And things that were cool jobs to me were, being a film director, being a writer, being in the comic book industry. All the things that I loved, I always wanted to make them. I always knew that, right? But it was like there are so many things that I want to do, right? And when I decided, like when I got a chance to do it, that was it. So when I first went to college, I wanted to be a film director. I wanted to go to Sony Purchase, but I didn't get in, and so I ended up doing like computers because like that was the hot thing at the time. I think it was computer information systems I majored in back in 2001. And so I did that. I got my associate's degree. I came out and I did not go into the computer field. There was just because that, if you're familiar with that time period in the 2000s, early 2000s, we had the dot-com bubble burst.
Yeah.
So there weren't jobs there. So I went into real estate, and then 2008 happened, right? So another bubble.
All right.
I have the perfect timing, right?
You're making me feel nervous about making games right now. Just so you know.
But the thing is, I had an opportunity in 2008, 2009 to sort of do a reset because I saw the writing on the wall. There was no more money coming in the real estate thing. So I said, I got to do something else. And I said, if I am going to do something else, it's going to be what I want to do. And I was, really into technology. So I went back to school and I got my bachelor's degree at 30 years old. But before I did that, I said I wanted to learn to code, right? So I figured the best way to do that would be to make a game. I don't know why I came to that conclusion, right? But I knew I always wanted to do it as a kid, so I made a game.
Well, you're not wrong.
Oh, well, there we go.
You're not wrong. I mean, some of the best people I know that code they make games, because you're presented with so many challenges. Does that make sense? And, you're thinking constantly outside of the box. You're not just moving. You're not trying to create the next Excel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
You're trying to do stuff that other people haven't done, or a different way of doing the same thing, or a more efficient way of doing it. I think that's the best way of doing it, because then you got something you can reflect back on, and you can build from there. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, and no, it's true. And so I sort of just got on YouTube and started looking at tutorials on how to make stuff. And back then, I wasn't using Unity or anything like that. I was using XNA. It was Microsoft's development tools. They were in C#. I don't know if you guys remember that, but so I did that, and I used that to, show what I was working on to some admissions advisors. And I got back into school, did that, and then when I got out of there, I took those gaming projects that I was working on and just showed them off in interviews, right? And I got several job offers. I chose to work for Citigroup back when I got my bachelor's degree back there. I was as a technology analyst, right? But I was always making things in the background because I always looked at what my day job was as a way to feed what the true passion is, and to sort of build my own way into the door. So as far as the gaming industry proper, for me, it is I'm sort of trying to make my own lane. I don't know how to kick that door down, so I'll make my own house, right?
Yeah.
And so and that comes along with what my goals are, is to sort of be, I don't know if anyone knows this, but Star Wars is the most successful independent film of all time. I'm talking about Episode 4, A New Hope.
Oh yeah,
the originals, right?
Yeah, the originals.
Yeah, right. So up until Disney bought them, so this covers episodes 1 through 6, I believe, which is 4 through 6, and then the prequels 1 through 3. Those were all independently funded movies. And the funny thing is, not the first one. I think Fox funded the first one, but they didn't believe in it, so they gave George Lucas all the toy rights and all the other rights, because this is 1978, and who knew about franchises back then?
Right.
So my point is, he created an interconnected world,
especially something so radical at that time,
right? That he was completely in control of, and there was lore that could be added to it. Like the Star Wars extended universe was something that always fascinated me, and so for me, I want to create something like that, something where it is. I feel like everyone's looking for, everyone wants to. Like, I don't want to work for Disney. I don't want to work for Marvel. I'm happy to partner with people, but I want to retain ownership of what I'm creating. So for me, this is about creating a sort of transmedia story that sort of spans, novels, video games, comics. And because I'm funding this all myself, I have to do it all myself. So I have plans and I write all the comics and everything. And the only thing I can't do is draw, and I do the coding for the game. So there are more games coming. I'm a software engineer by day, but that's in the financial industry. But it's the game development and writing by night. And I'm trying to build an empire that is independently owned. And so for me, just as a person of color, I think it's important,
very important,
that more of us do that. I think it's important. It's more important than looking for us to look to be co-signed by an establishment, right? Then it's more important for us to create our own things, because then you're sort of the master of your own destiny. Because for me, right, I look at those things and I kind of see it as like, I don't want us to wait to be chosen or wait to be picked to be in an industry. Like, we should work there if that's our goal, but we should all, and this goes for all people, right? Don't wait for any corporation to pick you if you don't have to. Just take your destiny in your own hands and tell the stories you want to tell. If no one is making a game that you would want to play, or no one is writing the next great screenplay of a movie you would like to see, then you write it, right? Like they say that with politics. If you can't find a politician you like, that's a sign that you should run.
You should run. Right. You should go run.
And that is the thing. So for me, it's less about breaking in and then more about building something. And then, you get to a place where you can lift while you climb. So if Everborn is successful, I can make opportunities for other people that maybe didn't get noticed, right? And so that's what it's more about for me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you 100% on that. That's the reason why, like, I did the thing for myself, and since I got into my situation where I got hurt, and so I have a little more time to do this type of stuff outside of the original job. That's why I made GRG and then doing this stuff with Devin the Gamer, and then just other projects that I'm going to be working on, and then me and Don's got another project that we're going to work on. It's just to really go out there and make it happen and make it into a business, more so than letting, like you said, be chosen. That's the thing right there. It's like, it's a slow grind. There's no doubt about it.
There's no shortcuts.
No, that's the thing right there, is that you can see people that you may have helped. You may have gone on their podcast, helped them out, and then they blow up, and then you say, hey, you want to come over to the podcast? You want to say what's going on? Be a guest? Oh, no, I can't do that. I've had that happen to me, and I've known other people that's happened to as well. It's just, for me, it's like, that's fine. I got to take it. I got to go the hard road. It's not like I haven't had to do that before, but it is something to me that is just as important to make sure that I solidify this brand, just like what you're trying to do, and just like what Don is trying to do as well, because he's trying to kick in the door and do the things where he's doing, especially with how and behind the scenes when we get off the air. Maybe he want to tell you about his project a little bit, because it's pretty damn dope. I have to admit, it's something that I wasn't even expecting, but yeah, that's the thing about it, is that it's all about, of course, networking, but it's linking with the right people that's going to help you propel to get to the next level. And yeah, man, I wish you the best of luck on everything that you're doing, man.
I have a strong feeling that, and this is just, it's more self-gratification when I say this sort of thing, but I think the greatest artists out there are the people that always face opposition. Where you have to rely on that something about you that's you believe in you when no one else can see it yet. You know what I mean? And there's something about that. I think that internal drive that we all have as people, and sometimes we just don't tap into it. Sometimes we have to let someone else lead, and whatever example that we can attach ourselves to somebody else that's been successful. Okay, now I can do it. No. You don't have to wait for anybody. Do it.
Right.
Go for it. You're going to stumble. It's going to be painful. Dreams do not come easily.
Right.
But with that opposition, though, man, they are so rewarding when people start to get it. You know what I mean?
When you told somebody and they didn't see it, and then you go out and do it and you show them.
Yeah,
that's a satisfaction.
It's that walking tall thing. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to brag about it. Here it is, right? Sort of thing.
No, I like to throw "I told you so" parties.
Oh, I told you so parties.
You didn't think
That's it. That's great. That's great. All right, so let's get at least one topic in here before we got to get out of here, because we're almost only got 15 minutes left. But yeah, I love the discussion. That's why I was like, man, just let it be. Maybe that's what we'll do whenever we have another guest again. It's just
it's nothing wrong with having topics, just in case. Just in case. But okay, all right. So there was I had about 5 or 6 of them, but let's just go ahead and let me ask you this question, right? I've got a lot of flack because I was just now playing. I started playing Assassin's Creed Unity. I bought the game years ago, but it was really unplayable. And then I went ahead and seen that on the Xbox One X that they had a version that it wasn't the
capped.
French Revolution one.
Right, yeah, and that it wasn't capped. But I tried to play it, and it still was all buggy, and it was still a big mess. It was better. It wasn't as buggy as it was when I first played it, but it just didn't feel as smooth. Well, now I've been playing it, and I don't know if you've been noticing, I've been playing the hell out of it here for the last couple of days now, since they've added the HDR boost and the frames per second to it. It plays so much smoother. It plays just great. But we got people that's on the other side that will try to tell you, and I shouldn't say other side, but we got people out here that will tell you that why are we playing older games on these newer consoles, and what's the whole purpose of basically? I know it's about going after Xbox, but PlayStation is doing boosts as well on some of their games as well. Why is it that older games are important? Why is it important for older games to get these boosts and things like that? So I'm going to go to you to the guest. I'm going to see what you got to say about that.
So Can we curse on this show?
Yeah, you can curse if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
just because my PG persona is here, you don't have to behave yourself. You're good.
Okay. Listen, anybody that says, why are you playing them old games? Because I fucking feel like it, and I paid for it.
Talk
I'm
about
a
it.
grown ass man.
Talk about it.
Like I never understand that. Like I don't owe you an explanation for my enjoyment.
Yeah.
So what? I'm playing it because I feel like it. It could have came out in 1972. This is the game I want to play today.
Yes.
And I'm on my timeline posting about some fun I'm having, and then here you come with the, oh, why you got to play this? Don't worry about that, right? But anyway, listen, I don't want to get upset.
You're saying don't be a fun sucker is what you're saying.
No, but more seriously, like no, I think it's super important, and I think that like what Microsoft right now is doing for game preservation is something that the entire industry can look. I mean, listen, the PC has been there forever.
PC has been doing it, yeah,
right. But listen, in the same way that Microsoft brought sort of, I mean, I know like the Dreamcast did it first, but like they mainstreamed online gaming to the console business. They brought us achievements and things like that. Like and sort of the idea of this like party chat, although Nintendo just still doesn't care. The thing is, these things are important, and I hate the idea of looking at these games as disposable commodities. They are not, right? They are art, and it doesn't matter when you pick up a game because, and again, if you look holistically at what sort of the stated goals of the Xbox division at Microsoft is, it's sort of about driving sort of subscriptions to Game Pass, right? So if you are going to be in Game Pass, you need a library, right? And if you need a library that is going to grow over time. So the costs of producing all these things become amortized over time, right? So if you can find a software solution to sort of do things like boost FPS and, with auto HDR and making the games look and run better, those things will always be in the service. So Assassin's Creed Unity may just be a draw that will bring them dividends, and it'll be a thing that people have that will keep them subscribed. So the longer the Game Pass service exists, and the more they are sort of boosting older titles, right? That will bolster their catalog. So it says, hey, there's something in there for everyone. And for us as gamers, it allows us to try things. So I'll give you an example. You were playing Assassin's Creed Unity. Because I was playing Returnal and I, had wasted 5 hours of my time. Not like it's a great game, but when I say wasted, I mean I'm still back at the beginning, right? Like I lost 2 hours from the door opening bug, and then I had an almost 3 hour run, and I died on the boss, and now I'm back at the beginning. I still have my sword, but the point is, I don't know when I'm going to have another 3 to 5 hour stint to go down, and right. So anyway, I died. I got frustrated. I said I can't do this. So I said I saw a lot of people making comparisons between ReCore and Returnal. And I did not know why, because I didn't play ReCore when it came out. But guess what? It's in Game Pass. So I gave it a shot. This is a 4-year-old game. We're going to ignore the fact that, it had the graphics it did, and it only came out 6 months before Horizon Zero Dawn. Right. Because that's crazy. Think about that. Right. But I'm saying the game as a product, it's actually fun. And I think the comparison is apt. Like when you, if you think about the traversal mechanics and the combat system, and the weapons, it's very similar. Obviously, the graphics are in 2 different universes. Right.
Yeah, that's the one thing about it. I said it was just, the gameplay, it was so reminiscent of the gameplay. And then when you say that, there's people that went crazy and that was like, oh, no, see, you're trying to compare. No, I'm saying the similarities was the gameplay, not graphically.
Exactly, because we're adults and we can have nuanced conversations.
Absolutely, right.
Some of us, right? So, to me, ReCore, an old game, I never would have tried it. I just heard about it in a in the Twitter shenanigans. So I said, let me go check this out because it's in Game Pass. And guess what? When I was playing it all weekend, it was before Monday with the FPS boost, right? So I played it at 30 frames a second over the weekend, but Monday it was 60 frames, and you can see that difference, right? Now I was curious at 30 frames, but now I'm interested, and I actually want to play and finish the game now because it just runs so much smoother, and it sort of fixes the issues that I have with Returnal, which are like, I wish Returnal was more of an open world because they're both dungeon crawlers. I love that you get a double jump in Recore, and it saves, right? So it respects my time. So for me, like I'm gonna, I don't know when, but I'm gonna finish Returnal at some point. But now I'm gonna play this game that I never would have experienced. That's an experience I wouldn't have had. It doesn't matter when the game came out, it's new to me. And now with this sort of FPS boost and auto HDR, it feels new. So I think that is the important thing we should be thinking about. And I take my hats off to them because, and we could talk about the cloud gaming thing too, because I think that's a big deal to get gamers to more people. I don't think that's just a PR spin. Like if you take your console allegiances out of it and you just think about this as a gamer, like pretend you were 13 again and you had access to all of these games, and then you could sort of take them with you and play sort of console quality games, in your, like, look at this. I don't know. You see this? Right? I can take this, and now it's like a Switch, right?
Yeah.
And so putting all that together, right, is it's amazing, and we should all be applauding that, right? Whenever I play a game, it doesn't matter. I have a PS5, and I'll play Returnal when I want to play that, and I'll go back and I'll play, because I never played Days Gone, and I'm going back to play that too. And when the games start coming out like Halo, that's what I'll be playing. It doesn't matter what you're playing. Let's not shame people, right? But anyway.
No. You made a great point there. I don't know, Don. You want to piggyback off of that?
No, I my stance on it. I think games should always be evergreen. They should always be around. It's disappointing when they disappear. There's nothing wrong with having a conversation about an older game and people getting into an older game. I think things though, like auto HDR, the frame rate boost and stuff like that, what it does is bridges that gap where I think a consumer may not give it a chance. Does that make sense? They're kind of accustomed to the new, and they kind of just don't want to go all the way back. But this last generation, to be honest with you, will age pretty well visually, I think. And so, what are going to be the deficits? It's the finite details, like the 4K, it's the HDR, it's those sort of things that are going to make it seem like a current release, And if you look at, say, newer games coming out today, not all of them are the AAA blockbuster bangers, right? Like some of them are, they're scaled back, right? They're a little bit, simpler games, but it doesn't mean they're not good games to be had and enjoyed. And I think you're not talking about the one that's the French Revolution one. Is that correct?
Yeah.
There,
that's the one I'm playing.
That's one of my favorites of last gen, to be honest with you.
Really?
That was one of my favorites. I played it 6 months later.
You know what's funny about
great.
What's funny about Unity, the one with the French Revolution? When that came out, I had went to Paris for the first time. They actually modeled the palace. Like I could look at the pictures that I took there and then go and look at it in the game. Kind of what it was.
The street
it's strong.
The street layout's the same too. That's what's crazy about it. So they follow the old architecture. Obviously, they have new buildings and stuff like that throughout Paris, right? But they follow the same street structure and everything about it. It's pretty crazy. So
because I never got a chance to beat it, because it was horrendous when I first got it, and then of course, like I just said before, that it was, it just didn't feel like it was ready, even on my PC before. Now I didn't ever played it on my new build PC, but it just feels right, and that's the thing to me that just bothers me. It's just like, look, I see these people playing Demon Souls, they're asking for SOCOM, which is a PlayStation 2 game, but then yet you're going to knock me because I'm playing Assassin's Creed Origins on a game on a console that's giving me, all these different boosts and advantages, so I can play this game at that's better than ever on my television, or if on your monitor. I mean, why not? Like, I mean, that's something that's a reason to have a library, a back catalog, to go back and see some of these games of how maybe the developer at that time envisioned that they wanted their games to be, or even it might even surpass it because of the enhancements that we got with televisions and things like that. So because if you think about when that game came out, 2016, there was no VRR. There was no 2.0, HDMI's. There wasn't anything like that. They were just coming out with 4K televisions. And people, and at that time, I think they were like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. So of
people
course,
didn't even think those were attainable for gaming when it came out. What's also crazy?
Right.
Like, you ever hear of someone buys an old house and they want to modernize it? They wanted to update, and people are like, why the hell are you doing it to the old house? Because they see the potential in it, right? Like, and then once you see the remodel, they go in there like, oh, damn. You know what I mean? The same thing with, like, somebody that has a Honda Civic and he wants to soup it up. Like, and people are like, hey, that's stupid. But once they roll in their, with their new car all dialed in, they're like, ooh, there's a little bit of that lip biting where they go, oh, that's hot, right? You know what I mean? And I just think, like, if you can give more life to games, why not? And I don't think there's anything problem. I mean, hell, we got Quake with ray tracing now on PC. We have these older games that've been around forever. They're now getting ray tracing updates, and they bring a little bit of a new life to just kind of show that cool tech demo of something we didn't think was possible in real time rendering. A little less than a couple years ago. You know what I mean? Like, it's I want people to enjoy games, and I don't know. Like, I just don't have time to people that hate on stuff.
Gaming is like music to me. It's timeless. It doesn't matter how old the song is. I mean, you let me listen to, if I hear some old Ozzy Brothers from the 80s or from the 70s, even from the 60s, I'm still going to remember that's the jam, and I'm going to groove to it. It's got nothing. So if people can look at music that way, why people can't do that with games? It just blows my mind.
Well, the thing is that they do, right? Like, a lot of these arguments or pushback that you'll see, it's not really about what it's about, right? Mm-hmm. It is sort of this sort of like us versus them religious thing. And they're only saying that because I don't know if they feel like they need to sort of justify the tribe that they, right? Because what difference does it make, right? Like, if you want to play, like I said, I play Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past at least once a year, right? That's an old game. I go back and play it. How in the world, if you are on a PC or you're on a PS5 or you're on anything else, how does that affect you in a way? Like, what value would you get out of telling me why am I playing something, right? Like, think about the mental gymnastics there, right? Like, why not say, hey, we're gamers and you're playing a game, right? But one thing, like, on the technical side of things, what I'm super interested to see, like, going forward, as these sort of fidelity FX and super resolutions, as those things sort of begin to roll out and, like, really become, or DirectML, those things become, like, commonplace, I really want to see if there is a way to retrofit that backwards, meaning like they can do FPS boost now and they can do auto HDR, but what if they could use that AI to up-res through like reconstruction or however they do it, the texture, so you can.
That's the hope, right? Because you can reduce your texture file size. Let's say a modern day game, right? One of the things that eats up so much memory is textures, right? So to be able to do something at a lower resolution and be able to get the high resolution quality without that degradation, you know what I mean? Would be huge. And if you can do it to that, why couldn't you do it at a driver level for an existing game, like a texture filter? Almost
yes,
like, you
exactly.
know what I mean? So yeah, there's potential there. And like they have to kind of crack that egg open, you know what I mean? and see where they can go with it, you know what I mean? So it's cool.
But and like imagine that, right? Because then it doesn't even matter if it's a 3D game, and 2D games are timeless anyway, right?
Yeah.
But then I think 3D games become timeless because now those things that looked older, now you have, these sort of, like you said, the AI filters on the textures that make them look like, 4K textures. Yeah, even though
I don't expect like an N64 title, right, to look like a modern day game, right?
Yeah, because you get me hype. I'm thinking about Shinden looking like like AI. Like what?
But it's funny.
Lower poly counts, right?
Yeah, but it's funny. Like we just talking about last generation, right? Imagine if you can use that type of upsampling at the texture level, and you're able to kind of bump that up. What's crazy about that is it's way more effective. If you really think about it in a 3D environment, it would be way more effective in a texture than it would be on a 2D image, right? Because you have that draw distance, you have those things that kind of hide some of the artifacting that would happen in that sort of thing, but you would get some of the benefits too, right? And so, I'm excited to see that technology from a texture aspect of things. That there's a lot of talk about it. We'll see when we actually start getting it. You know what I mean? So.
It would suck if it all ended up just being talk and like we it never came to be.
I think sometimes the talk happens too soon before the general public is ready for it. You know what I mean? We talk about cloud compute and stuff like that, or like the beginning of last generation, and it's a real thing. We see it all the time today. It just happens behind the scenes. And one of my favorite ideas from cloud compute is AI, right? Like you think about how much a CPU handles the AI routines, and now you can just offload that to something that's not nearly as time sensitive into the cloud, and you can have way more intelligent interactions. There's some exciting things about the cloud, but people are just not going to see that right away. It just takes time.
Yeah, I think about things like that, like it could be things that are just sort of like part of the environment. Like it could be like you could be in an open world like GTA type game, and it could be like traffic patterns, or you'll look up and you'll see like a flock of birds that are sort of flying in a certain direction in the way they do, and you don't have to sort of calculate that, and it'll give you this sort of immersive effect just for things like NPCs that are off in the distance, right?
Speaking of that, like it amazed me how many characters that they have in Unity. Like
yes, that was the biggest thing that brought that game to a halt. Was all the AI.
I'm like, yo, like I mean, it is
more characters than we're in Cyberpunk. But
way more characters.
But we're not ready for that conversation.
Leave my Cyberpunk alone. Don't get started anyway.
Don't ruin that game for Kmega, man.
Yeah, man, I love that game. But even though it fell short, but I still thought it was a fantastic game. The story aspect of it.
I have over 100 hours in Cyberpunk. I bought it on the Series X, and then all the controversy. So I ended up playing it on PC because I have a 3080 with a 10900K i9 processor and 64 gigs of memory. All the best stuff, right? Just because when you're doing repeated builds in Unity, you want something that's gonna build fast, because like waiting for things is like the worst. But anyway, I literally bought it for that and not for gaming, but it is a gaming PC. I prefer to play on. I feel like video games should be played on a couch. It doesn't matter that I can get better graphics on my PC. I
agree with you 100%. Yeah,
unless it's something like Flight Sim or in this case Cyberpunk, where like you just need the PC to play it and like really experience. Then
it ran well on the Series X for me. I mean, there was issues every once in a while. I think I only had like 2 hiccups where the game crashed on me, and that was at the part where you was trying to rescue old girl from the sex market or whatever. But well, that was the only 2 problems that I had when it crashed like that. But overall, like for just having, goofy glitches and stuff like that, it did that. Especially, and I'm the type of person that try to go way out. Like I would go into the trash dump, and I'm trying to drive all up on that stuff, and then the game really start glitching out. And I'm like, oh yeah, they did not want you to go up in there. But
there are moments in that game where you look around and it's like they really just made some place that feels real. That they made a city.
Spot on. It was, yes.
It touched greatness in moments, but like I still feel like it's a few updates away from what it should have been, and it makes me wonder if I should have waited to get that experience. But the story,
how I look at it is like The Witcher, like The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 was broken when it first released. I came back 2 years later, played it, beat it. Like 500 hours later, but it was perfect. And so I just got so enamored into the story of Cyberpunk that I just couldn't stop playing it. But I am going to go back again, pick a different class, and go through it once they get done with the patches. But I feel you're right.
Who did you save in the end, Johnny or V?
Johnny had to go, bro.
A man after my own heart.
Like the way he talked trash to me in the beginning, bro. Like he tried to take my body. No, man, we ain't doing that. But anyway, I had to. I'm sorry, Johnny. I mean, I got it, but no, man, it was time to move on, bro. It was time to move on, Johnny. You had to go, brother. You know what I'm saying? The whole point of it was me to save my life.
Yeah, well, I'm just waiting for the DLC so I can actually get a definitive answer on that.
Yeah, because I got 2 endings, and so I need to go and try to catch the other one. But I will definitely use it. Because what class did you use? Who did you play?
On the Xbox, I did Street Kid, but I only have a few hours in that. Where I put the 100 hours in was Corpo.
Oh, it's a Corpo too. All right, yeah, all right. So we both shiesties. All right, that's it. No. Anyway, man. Okay, I got one more topic, and we can be quick on that. I just want to hear your point on this, and that is, I couldn't resist the patent. It says the patent there's a patent out there for frustrated gamers to receive support from experts. Would any of you guys sign up for that if that comes into your console?
I do have a question. Can I sign up your gamer tag as the expert that answers the call for them?
I'm trying to figure out if somebody needs a content creator, I will go ahead and sign up for that to help, but I'm not calling anybody for that.
They really got people set up for tech support, right? So how does it work? It's like, do you get a tip for every tip that you give, or what is it? Are you like a life coach giving game advice?
I think what it is that it will go to a content creator or an expert and assist them on getting past that level for them, or telling them.
But do they get paid? That's what I want to know.
Obviously, that somebody has to get some kind of currency. Yeah, so that's the thing. So
it might be
I'll sign up for get paid. Yeah.
This is what I'm saying, because it's like an OnlyFans for good gamers. Right?
Oh my God, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what it is.
Right. So but that being said, right? Like I the other thing that I worry about this, right? Because I see it now, right? I'm trying to tell like my son, like, yo, you got to go to college, you got to do all these things. And he's gonna say, what do you mean, Dad? I got a job finishing video games for people.
Right. Yeah. That sucker on The Last of Us 3 or The Last of Us remake.
Yeah,
I could get him past this part.
And then he's gonna look at me one day, and then he's gonna be making more money than me.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's like looking at me like chump.
I don't know if you guys remember this. Remember the old Nintendo Powers? There was a hotline on the back of the old Nintendo Power.
No, I do not remember. Really?
Yeah, there was a hotline for people that had a hard time playing games, and they would have people on the other line playing a game, figuring out how a game worked for them, and the whole goal was to keep them on the phone as long as possible, so they could charge
money off of them. Oh my god!
So they could charge them.
So mom and dad have to look at their phone bill, and it's like $200. Oh my god!
Yeah, and just one other thing though, like more on a more serious.
Wow,
note,
I did not know that.
No, it was a real thing in the 8-bit era for sure.
I'll be damned.
I think it's I don't have a problem with it, right? Because like we used to look at the game facts, right? The game FAQs, right?
Oh, yeah.
Right, and or and
you buy a game booklet, yeah,
right, and people.
I didn't do that.
You didn't buy a game booklet?
No, I didn't do that.
Shit,
I would keep the owner's manual in mint condition. I wouldn't even touch that when I would get the game.
Man, no, there was something that was tough, especially like with fighters or something. I had to get the book because they never had all the moves in. But go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The special moves.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Right. So, and people today, they might get stuck in a thing, especially with these like RPGs or the puzzle based ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like people will go on YouTube and like see how to get past this thing. So I just see this as if this is a way of like having like a direct payment and it can sort of create its own economy for people that are into that. I'm cool with it, right? Like I'd never use it, right?
The new Loot Crate though, if it would come out, it would be the new Loot Crate.
Yeah, and look, I'm all for it, right? Like I wouldn't help anybody, and I wouldn't call for help. I'll search on Google like in private to find my cheats.
And wipe your search history after you're done.
Exactly.
So no, you did it.
Check this out though. Okay, the way that the gaming industry is working now, though, especially the way YouTube operates. Those when you could go look and try to find something with puzzles and stuff like that, if this is implemented, if this comes out, best believe that people's channels will get flagged if they do implement that. You got to think about that too. So like, okay, let's say that there's just some puzzle game that comes out there, right? And then somebody that's on YouTube that's just going ahead and showing people how to get through it. If they implement this strategy, I guarantee you, they're not going to want to lose that money. They're going to flag those channels who's out there trying to show people out there. It could be a mess, but I don't know.
This is a Sony patent, right?
Yeah, it's a Sony.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think Sony could have like sway over, unless they're going to start doing like DCMA takedowns for people sharing game videos. But
that's what I'm saying, right? Like, they've done it before.
Do they want that though, right? Because
you might make more profit sharing a game, streaming in some sort of form or fashion. It gets people interested and buys the game. So
do a partnership like Nintendo did at one point in time. Yeah,
because I think that I think the economy of it is a way for, because like right now, if you put out a YouTube video with a tutorial on how to get through all of the dungeons in Breath of the Wild or whatever it is, right? Maybe I'm stuck somewhere and 10,000 people watch that video, right? All you're going to get is the ad monetization from that. But if I want direct help and I have to connect with you on a one-on-one basis and you get paid per transaction, I think Sony gets a little piece, you get a little piece, and it's good for everybody. And the people that will use it, right? I don't think that would preclude anyone from doing that, putting the tutorial on YouTube. But I see the line of thinking, but I think it's better for them to have those videos shared, but the people that need help, they'll get a piece, because that'll be the most, because you still have to search, right? It's not so easy to say, I'm specifically at this part in the game. How do I know what part of the game this is? And then how do I solve that? Like, if I've searched for things where I was lost in a game, and then, you know, it sometimes can be a chore to figure that out. So I think, and if it's something like a finish move in Mortal Kombat or something like that, like, that's not as easy as just watching a video, right? Having a personal coach right there, or you could be paying for a coach to just teach you how to game better, right? Like, maybe you're playing COD and there's an expert COD player that's gonna coach you on how to get good.
There's Fortnite coaches right now.
Right. So
parents pay their kids to get Fortnite coaching.
There are parents right now it is real. I heard that 2 years ago, and I said, what? No way. Yep. Looked it up, sure enough, yeah.
Well, let me tell you something right now. I can tell you just about half of that $9 billion that Fortnite came from my household alone. So
how many skins does your son have on his account?
I don't want to talk about it.
Oh man! Oh my goodness!
But I kind of take this from a different perspective. When I was looking at it, I was looking at it more of how much money does these platform providers lose when a customer gets frustrated and they don't play through the game, either through microtransactions, or they get a little frustrated with gaming and they may not buy the sequel or another game. I look at it from almost like an engagement perspective, if that makes any sense. And you can tie it to, say, like, okay, it connects you with an expert. You sign up as an expert, right? And it's based on your trophies or your achievements, or, you know, whatever it may be, right? In the case of Sony, it'd be trophies, right? And it shows that, hey, this person has done that. You want to connect with this person, boom, either I can be in a party chat and talk to the person, or I can share my controller and have them help me.
Yeah, the other thing is,
there's a lot of ways to look at it. So
the other thing is, like, you know, speaking of engagement, that would incentivize people to become experts, right?
Yeah.
So if I need a certain amount of trophies to become an expert, guess what that means? I'm engaged and on the PlayStation platform trying to earn that. And how many, you know, millions of kids are like, you know, I want to be an expert. So they'll put in those extra hours, play the extra game.
Exactly.
Your, you know, daily and monthly active users go up, and it's a win for everybody. Like, and it doesn't have to be used by everybody, but I think it's good. I think it's a cool thing.
We all know
people would definitely use it.
Yeah, imagine the system I was talking about. We had Randolph Thor would sign up, like, let's say Xbox implemented something like this, right? And Randolph Thor signed up as an expert. You know that man is going to be cashing it.
Oh man!
You know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, there's incentives. There's different ways you can look at this in regards to. There's always ways in the industry there. You know, there's this harsh reality. I hear all sorts of numbers in the industry being passed around, but basically, consumers not finishing products, right? Like story-based games are a big one, and you want people to see it to the end. And you've seen all these success with these kind of evergreen games, like that are seasonal, like Fortnite, say Apex Legends and stuff like that, and they're seeing success and engagement so much longer, and there's no in-game, right? So they have to do something to keep these people engaged, have a sense of accomplishment, go through it. It is a real issue, and if this becomes a tool to help out with that, I think as long as it's implemented fairly to the end user, I think there's potential there for something.
So I want to ask about that though, like this sort of idea of the sort of evergreen game as a service type of game versus a something that, because to me, when I play Destiny, right, it is I put like 80 hours into no, what am I saying? Like a lot more than 80 hours, right? I put all that time into it. And this was at the beginning, and then they did the first sort of wipe where they moved all your weapons back to zero. And I never played again because I realized that there is no end game.
Yeah.
Right? You know what? There's that whole famous like line from Vice President Cheney in one of those movies where there's like what's your end game to get out of the Middle East or whatever it is, and he's like, there is no end game, right? Like this is it, right? And when I play a game, it is for a sense of accomplishment, right? Like I want to feel like I finished this thing. And if the whole point of the game is to play, I don't know about that. And I think that's what sort of achievements and trophies did, because it said, okay, hey, I might play again after I finish the story because I want to get all the achievements. Or
give you a sense of little achievements along the way before you finish, right? And I'm the same sentiment there, where it's, I have to have a sense of accomplishment. I appreciate a beginning, middle, and end. I want a conclusion out of it. You want to give me an epilogue later? I'm cool with that too, right? But give me a sense of accomplishment, like I've been through and I did something and I've earned it. You know what I mean?
I have an addiction to long games. I've noticed
you have a real problem.
I have a problem with real long games. I love playing them because I feel like that's where I get my full, just like what you guys are talking about, accomplishment of beating that game. It's like, to me, for instance, like Devil May Cry. I think that game is 8 hours long. I've got past the first level. I haven't gone back, and it's not like I don't like the game. I will eventually go back, but it's like, but if you tell me something like, oh man, this one game, it's 200 hours, man, I don't know how anybody play it. I'm your man. I'm here. That's what I'm here for. I love being immersed so full. Like I was mad at myself for not beating Dragon Age Inquisition a lot sooner. And when I did, that sent Don knows, because I wouldn't shut up, and I still ain't shutting up about it.
I've been there. You do your thing. You do your thing.
What'd you say?
Now, so how many dragons did you beat?
Oh, I killed all 10.
I got 7. I got 3.
Oh yeah, I got all 7. I went back. I got my ass kicked by the one that was at the water. That was like where all the little dinosaur looking things was. And I said, okay, I'm finna, because he kicked my ass about 5 or 6 times. I said, I'm gonna come back. So I made sure I killed all the rest of the dragons. The hardest dragon was the one Don was listening in the background.
I remember it was like, oh, I'm gonna get you. We're gonna have words. That's what I remember you saying.
Yeah.
I remember you saying.
I said, I'm gonna get your ass. I'm gonna get your ass because he kept fucking me up with that lightning. And I said, okay, I'm gonna get you.
Oh, the lightning, yeah.
So I went and I there was one, and Don said, "What the hell is that?" I said, "There's this big ass dragon at this one area. It was where the snow was." And it was a snow.
Weren't you streaming it? And I checked it out or something like that.
I streamed a little bit of it.
That might be the one I watched a little bit or whatever.
But you had to fight this demon, and he propositions you to like just let me go, and then if you'll get riches beyond your dreams. That level, but there was a big, huge damn dragon. There was like 3 dragons there, and that killed that dragon. I said, "Oh, once I killed him, I said I'm kicking my ass right back up there and getting that damn lightning dragon." And I got his ass. But yeah, no, I put in like 450 hours into it, but I enjoyed every damn minute of it. Well, it's really weird when you think that.
See, my thing is like there are certain games that warrant that, and I put that kind of time into Inquisition. I put that kind of time into Cyberpunk. Yes. But
those aren't evergreen games, though. Like they're continuous games, but they have an end. They have a conclusion if you want to, right?
Right.
They're a little bit different as the games as a service games that last forever.
But I think what I'm trying to say is I think we may have too many of those longer games, and that's part of the reason some people aren't finishing, right? Because I feel
that is true.
I feel like the Assassin's Creed and
I was just gonna bring it up.
What Watch Dogs and all those things, it's just like the same kind of Ubisoft formula, different setting. Here's this thing, let's drag it out. Let's give you a bunch of missions that aren't just like fetch quests and things like that. And then like you have to me, Cyberpunk was that long, but it was engaging the whole way. every mission and every conversation had a purpose.
Yes.
And with Inquisition, just going back, and I played that back when it came out. That for me was, I was like, the story was fine, but I was just enamored with the world and hunting down those goddamn dragons, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so that's what it was for me. So there are games that warrant that. I just don't need every game like that. I agree. I appreciate a game. Again, it's even the Returnal problem. I need something to respect my time. So if you're going to be that long, it better be for a reason. You better be engaging the whole way, right? And I actually appreciate a game that I can take up on a weekend when I'm free and have it done by Sunday. Like I'll start Saturday morning, I'll be done by Sunday because I'm not touching it during the week because I got a million other things going on. So, but there are those other games like Cyberpunk where it's like, you know what? Let me wait till the missus is asleep. I'm gonna turn this on and put the headphones on. You know what I'm saying?
And get engaged.
Right. Those games I'm playing all the time, but like I can't do that all the time.
Right. I don't know if you played Witcher 3 or if you got how far you got into Witcher 3. If you have Witcher 3,
I got a few hours into it and then I lost it. Not like lost it, but like just didn't come back to it. And now I was ready
to start over. Probably, yeah.
I do have to start over, but I'm waiting for the next gen patch, and I'm going to play the whole thing through.
Yeah, now see, this the thing here with The Witcher 3 that reminds me so much of Cyberpunk is because of the side missions. Because like you were saying, Cyberpunk side missions, every last one of them were different. Not the blue ones with the cop stuff. I
don't do none of those. Like
I only got like 16 or 17 left before I have all those done. But I've done every side mission, and every last one of them are absolutely done. Every last one of them. And they were all different.
Okay. Yeah, because the people who wanted me to come and get cars, and then you had the ones where it was the cop that was calling me. I never answered any of those calls. I was to me, they were like telemarketers. I'm like, you can't just, who gave you my number?
Right. But that's the beauty of it, and I love that. Anyway, I just love when we have these type of discussions, and then you just got people like, I'm not messing with that, and that still doesn't mean because you beat the game, you've already engaged with it. I like that. Instead of like we have discussions with somebody and you're like, oh, you didn't beat that, oh, you didn't complete this, oh, you're a fraud, you didn't beat the whole game. Did you even play the game? I don't have to. I didn't like it. Okay, well, whatever. That's the thing to me is like, stop it. I love these discussions.
There's so much more to gaming than
so much more to gaming.
Yeah, than the personal attacks and the pettiness that's out there.
Right? So
for sure. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more to enjoy.
We're gonna have to get the hell out of here. It's almost midnight my time, so I'm like, man, look, this was a fantastic episode. I cannot believe that we only talked 2 topics and it just felt like just time was just flowing. But man, thank you so much, Everborn. Man, come back whenever that you want to, man, for sure. We will definitely link up. And man, and if I'm free on one of those Thursdays, man, hit me up for sure. I would like to have a discussion about that. But where everybody can find you at, man, let everybody know and talk about that Kickstarter, man. Go ahead and show that up.
Yeah. So this is coming. This is coming to a home near you, right? Right. So we placed the print order already, but so where you can find me is EverbornSaga everywhere. That is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Steam, PlayStation Network, Xbox Network, you name it. But more importantly, check out EverbornSaga.com where you can pick up some of these comics. Now, this hardcover was something that we ordered exclusively for the Kickstarter, and it is not available on the site. We have this in a paperback, and this is the book we launched, Ariel's Adventure, right? So these are our first 2 series. They follow different characters, but it's telling the same story. So you see this guy here, he's Baltimore, right? Ariel's Adventure takes place 30 years later. That's Old Man Baltimore, right? And so you sort of see it's all connected. So this is the Hobbit to this Lord of the Rings, right? And then we've got 2 more series coming. It's really about a war between sort of the magic users and non-magic users. right? Those are Seraphs and Paladins. And there's a war that's brewing, and it starts 30 years in the past. And we get to catch up with it in Ariel's Adventure. And each book is a different sort of genre style, right? So Prince of Arcadia is more like a Game of Thrones style, more sort of a seinen anime. Ariel's Adventure is more like a shonen anime. It's like a kid. There's jokes, kind of level ups. It's a lot of fights and things like that. And then we have the novel that's coming out later this year, The Remnant. That sort of tells the story from the Seraph side. This is Prince of Arcadia is the human side of the war. So lots of interconnected stories going on. Everyone's got their own motivations, and the books do cross over, but you can pick up one series and go with that and just get it from that character's perspective. But if you want to see it from all the characters' perspectives and know why people do what when they come into the different series, you can check them all out. So it's a big thing, like telling a story like this. I think of every series as like a POV chapter in a Game of Thrones book. So I'm really big on fantasy, and I'm really big on anime, and I'm really big on gaming, and that's what Everborn is about. It is all the things that I loved as a kid, and it's a way for me to create it in one world. So EverbornSaga.com. Check out the books. You can get cool shirts like this, poster like that there in the back, and and talk to me on Twitter. Everyone that follows me, I follow them back. So give me a follow on Twitter.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Thank you, man. Man, you're doing great work out there. I know a homeboy right now. Once I'll get this uploaded tomorrow or whenever Don sent it to me, I'm going to send this right over to my homeboy Roderick, and he's going to be all over that. So don't be surprised if you got somebody named Ramjack to hit you up. That's going to get on that Kickstarter. I promise you that, because he is all about that. And that's my bro that's come back and started playing video games with me. He's been kind of out of the loop. He's
a recovering gamer?
He's a recovering gamer. He's turned 50, and now he's like, man, I don't know, and he's just, man, we've been coming by playing second.
One thing about that, though, like when I told you I went back to school, like that was in 2014, right? And so I was sort of out of gaming until this next generation. So all of those big hits, right? All those games that I missed over the last, like I didn't play Jedi Fallen Order till I had a Series X. I didn't play God of War till I had a PS5. So to me, that's why that old games argument thing is ridiculous to me. I'm playing all these things now, and I love it all from both sides of the aisle. And I wish we could. None of these games are old to me, is what I'm saying, because I was out of it since 2015 until 2020 when these next gen consoles came out. So I'm excited for everything.
Oh yeah, no doubt. But thank you so much, Don. Where can they find you at, brother?
Man, the best way is Twitter. Everything's interconnected from there. My Twitch channel is there. My YouTube channel, where I may post things randomly, and you'll never know unless you follow me at that location. And then we're looking for questions, and we're also looking for additional guests to come on Devin the Gamer. So any suggestions, tweet it me or Mega on Twitter, and let us know if there's any sort of questions you want us to answer or topics, or if there's somebody in particular either in the industry or in the gaming community that you want to come join us. And this format's a little bit different. It's a little more of that one-on-one experience. It's not about talking over somebody. It's not about egos. It's just about sharing games and whatever our perspective is. So,
no doubt about that. All right, and as for me, Thursday night, the next podcast with my bro Xpot 448 on his channel. Friday night is the night of the GRG podcast. Every Friday night, 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's 6 p.m. Pacific, and GMT time is 2 a.m. So if you're a night owl like we are,
GMT time.
That's like overseas time. So
okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, so anyway, and then of course, me and Don will be streaming something Saturday. We didn't do it last Saturday. I think we both kind of got engaged in some stuff. I watched the whole series of Invincible. I The first episode, I was like, "Is this what everybody was telling me to watch? This is what?" Okay. Well, then I got the end of that episode, and that changed everything. I said, "Oh, I got to see what happened," and then I caught myself staying up until 6:00 in the morning watching the whole damn series. So I watched so much TV last weekend with me and the wife, and just me by myself. It was just really crazy. But again on Sunday nights, Fight Night Sunday. We say about 9 p.m. Central Time, but we usually don't start until 10 p.m. But usually we be playing fighting games all damn night long. Doesn't matter what it is. And if you caught last week's episode, Lord have mercy, it was really wild. It was probably our biggest, deepest crew yet that came through. I think it was like 8 to 12 of us that came in.
Yeah, it got too deep. I had to leave.
Don said he was out, but yeah,
I didn't want to wait half an hour to do a match. I'm like, you guys got this. You pass the baton. Yeah, well, even though you start late, if you can catch me on Twitch, and then I will kick all the viewers over to Kmega or whoever streaming Fight Night, and so we can help those guys out as well. So. If you're out and about early, I will be on Twitch before Fight Night crew is rolling. So,
yeah. So anyway, thank you guys so much, man. Again, thank you, Everborn, so much for coming through. It was an honor. Thank you so much, man. Can't wait for your game and your books to drop, man. I cannot wait. And I'm glad that I did sign up for your Kickstarter and help you out and support. All right, guys, we are out of here. Peace.
Wait, I got a button I got to push.